Hello, trainers, and welcome to the making of the thumbnail for the episode known as Reindeer Games, which featured Stantler, Gogoat, and a winter Sawsbuck. This was a holiday episode from a couple of years ago now, and this one took me about an hour to make, a little more, but there were some pauses, and I actually had to split this up between 2 days, so it's a little choppy, but for condensing all the actual activity time, it was around an hour. Starting with the typical outlining that I like to do. Again, for those that might be a little newer, I hand draw the sketches, I scan it in, and then I put it into paint.net, and then I do most of my work there. I am a bit better with layers in this one, so we are learning. Since it's a holiday episode, I wanted to give the Stantler the Pokemon Go bell collar. Fun fact, in Pokemon Go, I actually collected enough of those special types of Stantlers to have a whole Santa team. uh, and again, with this holiday episode, Stantler, Sawsbuck, and Gogoat are kind of in competition on who the new Santa reindeer team will be. Because I remember back in early first seasons of Pokemon, before there were deer Pokemon, Santa had his sleigh pulled by Ponyta. So I kind of liked the idea that every year there's a bit of a competition to see who Santa's new Pokemon team would be, basically. Starting with the eyes all together on them, I kind of, between the three of them, I just did group layerings of different features. So I do the eyes, and then I do more of the outlines, and then I do kind of the baubles. I bounced around a bit on this one, because I don't do many multiple character thumbnails, so this one was a bit of an experiment. I think the only other ones I've done, because I know in the beginning I had Dodrio and Execute, and they were all pretty straightforward. And then I think I don't really have a multiple character one until Salandit and Salazzle. So it's kind of nice knowing that even with multiple characters, since it does add a little more technical time to it and line work, that I still average at about an hour. Especially since it's mostly just for quick thumbnail work. I'm pretty proud of my progress, to be quite frank. So yeah, going with the Ditto Pink. The reference I have for Stantler is mostly for color reference, because again, I have the outline that I want. I try to have references that show the shape, because there have been some episodes in the past where I almost forget an entire appendage to the Pokemon. I think the worst one was Lilligant. I forgot, the back head piece. But Stantler is pretty straightforward, thankfully. So, and I'm pretty familiar with my Santa team catching days. The image kind of got ingrained in my head. But the reference I have, if you see it in the flashes, the nose is a bit different, but most commonly it's got a round snoot and the kind of jowl look to it. So I mostly went with that. Working on a Gogoat's horns, I added the accent lines. I try to make them thinner than the thicker lines, because the thicker lines I feel like are the main body, and then having the thinner lines really accentuate the detail lines. Working on Stantler's very signature antlers, because with Stantler, there's not much going on with the Pokemon except for the antlers, so I really wanted to make sure that those were mostly in frame. So I had sketched out Stantler first, and also, again, with the idea of the bell, uh, what would you call that, bridle? Around the neck, I would want that to be the feature to accentuate that this is a holiday episode. So then I drew Gogoat, since they are the two prominent characters in the episode, and then Sawsbuck kind of sneaks in. Sawsbuck has a lot more detail in the face and a lot more design to them, and obviously wanted it to be a winter Sawsbuck because Christmas. So I felt a lot more comfortable having them more in the background and felt they could shine on their own more than the help that Stantler needed. Working out the different colors. I definitely wanted to keep the white accents to Stantler and Gogoat, because there's a lot of brown. I think I just replaced all the brown with pink between the 3 Pokemon, because there's a lot of brown. And the pink definitely helps make it pop a little bit. Uh, in the backgrounds, I usually would use the main body colors, and if I had done that with this one, it definitely would have been a lot of brown. But I do a more Christmassy design in the background, which will be seen later. I do keep the brown accents, and I do have the brown eyes for my OC, because my OC Ditto has little brown beads. Since I know Ditto, typically it's more little black-eyed beads, but I have seen a rare occurrence of the Dittos having brown eyes, and also I have brown eyes in real life, so it felt a little more connected. So we did just about all the outlining, and so now we're doing the baubles. It's kind of funny going back to basics. When you learn shading and shine, you start with your basic shapes of spheres and cubes and all that. So it was kind of fun going back to basics for the Stantler orbs. And I added another bell, and now we go into the main body coloring. I do not use the fill tool, one, because the lines are on a different layer. I put the outlines on a upper layer and then have the colors underneath, so then that way it's a little more crisp, and I don't risk accidentally overdoing the line, like wiping up over it. And also the fill tool in paint.net doesn't crisply fill it. It kind of leaves this pixelated gap, and it looks very well pixelated from a distance, so I found using the brush tool underneath the lines works a lot better, and then I can always clean it up afterwards. Adding the Ditto pink, which seems to be the majority of Stantler. Again, kind of bouncing around depending on what color I pick, so I did the whites for Stantler, for Gogoat, and wow, as I'm talking, the other Pokemon disappeared from my brain. Sawsbuck, that's it. Oh my gosh. That's the ADHD kicking in. Okay. So yeah, I got the Ditto pink, and I'm cleaning that all up in there. Yeah, even when there's multiple parts, once you get a kind of rhythm to it, it's pretty easy to flow around and jump around. Because especially with my mind, I prefer to kind of jump around. Oh yeah, almost forgot to note, with the under scruff and the leaf part of Gogoat, I did the outlines in freehand, because typically I would do the hard lines, the line tool to keep them crisp, but with the fluff and the chaoticness of the leaves, I felt the freehand softness would fit a bit better. And I decided last minute to add the berries to Gogoat's leafy scruff, because I thought that would be a really cute holiday touch. And I still had the holly berries in mind from the Tandemouse episode that I did previously. So I thought it would be a nice little addition to the dynamic of the front characters. And get that snoot, that oblong coconut snoot. And the background. With my holiday episodes, I like to take liberties with the background, and so I went with the traditional green and red. I experiment with some of the ribbon typing, and I don't know, with Christmas, plaid, flannel specifically says Christmas to me because it reminds me of sweaters and quilts. I try a kind of more checkerboard pattern, I believe. Working out my colors real quick. Oh yes, after I put in the green, I noticed there were some gaps where I was coloring. That is one of the tricky bits about using brush instead of a fill tool, is there might be little gaps. It also doesn't help. My screen gets a bit dirty, so I can't fully tell what's a speck on the screen and what is just a missing spot. So having the background solid color helps me clean up the edges a bit. So yeah, playing with different patterns, wanted to do the stripy effect, kind of looking like gift wrap or really festive specific wallpaper. And then adding the DDD logo. And then adding the episode number, which again, I typically use the primary Pokemon color, and between the three of them, it's heckin' brown. So I did that, and I added the secondary white with Sawsbuck and Gogoat, and I made it a little, like, mistier, kind of looking like a frosty snow, and also it helps the brown stick out a little bit more, and I use a kind of what I saw as Christmassy text. So there I forgot that the pattern effect was still on, so I had to switch it back to solid, and now I am adding the traditional Ditto shine, because I still like the idea of no matter how fluffy, furry, or leafy a Pokemon is, what one of the three main ways you can tell it's my Ditto is that it is shiny as heck. that slime girl shine that I call it. And it also does help that these guys are mostly pretty smooth, so I can add it around a little willy-nilly. Yeah, just using the soft transparent whiteness and then using a transparent setting eraser to graze it in. It also helps that most of these are solid, or like actual curves as opposed to straight lines or solid shafts. So having the slight curve at the end of the shine and that kind of circular effect actually adds to it here. With the exception of Stantler's main, like the base of the antlers. And that is just about it for our Reindeer Games trio. If you liked this and you want early access, you can go to my Subscribe Star or Patreon. You can also find the original full episodes there. And there's a lot of access to other things, like some exclusive art, some Your Character Here commission work that can be done depending on what tier you subscribe to. And otherwise, thank you very much for joining for this free video, and I hope to see you in the next one. See you for the next catch. Bye.